Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast, and we've got breaking news. It is May. May and November for Blood Bowl is FAQ time. And we've been waiting for this one, and you know what? It's a couple of days early. It's only the 28th today. We're recording the podcast on Thursday this week because we knew that the FAQ would be coming and it probably wouldn't land until the last day of the month. But we got it a little bit early. So we get to delve into the biggest changes to Blood Bowl, and I think there are a couple of things in there that you're really going to love. Okay, so over on the Games Workshop website, the community site, we've got Blood Bowl FAQ, bombers, bloodlust, and blocking. All right, should we zoom in a little bit? Let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. So, we ignore that. We ignore that. Here we go. Greetings, sports fans. It's May, and that means the Blood Bowl design team is ready to provide the first of their biannual FAQ updates. That's May and November. We caught up with Blood Bowl rules writer and chief herald of Nuffled, Jay, to see what balance updates have been implemented this time around. So Jay says, over the past months, we've been keeping a close eye on the state of Blood Bowl, looking at tournament results, win percentages, and the questions sent into our FAQ inbox. We have answered some of the more burning questions, as well as taking the opportunity to rebalance the game in a few ways. A process we explain here. And the first big hitter is Underworld denizens. Now, I think this is the first time we've had some like real depth to FAQs and FAQ changes, so I'm a big fan of that. Here we go. It's fair to say that Underworld denizens teams have been dominating for some time now. So we've opted to rebalance them slightly and bring them in line with the rest of the teams. As a result, we have removed the swarming trait from the Underworld Snotlings, meaning that they can no longer flood the pitch and overwhelm their opponents. Decisions like this are never taken lightly, and we are confident that this change will help rein in the Underworld Denizens team slightly, while still allowing them to complete. Okay, so the first big break here, before we even look at the FAQ document, is that the Snotlings on the Underworld team no longer have swarming. Okay. I'm gonna aggrandize this and say basically Underworld doesn't get Snotlings anymore. And you know what? I don't think that's a bad thing. The old Underworld team was not the best. This was in the before times where they just had a troll and they had access to no Snotlings. They didn't even have a gutter runner. They had 2 blitzers, 2 throwers, 2 linemen, and goblins. And it was middling at best. This edition, they added the gutter runner. You've got 1 gutter, 1 blitzer, 1 thrower, 3 linemen, a choice of a rat ogre. Why would you not choose the rat ogre? And then some Snotlings as well. And that Snotling balance factor allows you to just max out the roster and then basically sometimes play with 12 players on the pitch to begin with. And you can feed one to your rat ogre or just use... Snotlings are so useful. That dodge step is just wildly aggravating. So actually them being toned down a bit, I don't think is a bad thing. And I know if you're an Underworld player, you might be going, oh, I like using my Snotlings to swarm on. But dude, Underworld are potent. They are S tier. So I think this is a nice little gesture to the community. And I think that's what this is. I think this is just a way of toning down the Underworld team. Because, you know, you play against Underworld and it's like they've got that, and they've got that, and they've got that, and they've got that. Now, they don't got that, which I think is a solid little change there. Really like that. So, guard and fouling. This is also quite a chonker of a change. One thing that's become apparent is the constant growth of a fouling meta, where coaches are prioritised fouling the opposition off the pitch. We see this at our tournaments. We do see this at our tournaments. This is becoming increasingly prevalent, so we've decided to lessen the impact slightly. Before, players with a guard skill would be able to provide offensive and defensive assists to foul actions, making it even easier to stick the boot in. In this update, we've changed this so that guard now only provides assists to block actions instead. All right, okay. This is big, but only only some of the time. Guard is only available for, like, to start with, for Gnomes and Ivar, I think. I don't think I'm missing out any... Oh, and obviously Rowana. So, like, from a base point of view, that's okay. What this will do is limit the teams that have already got a bunch of stuff. They don't get this as well. So think about the teams. If I said to you, right, what team's going to spam guard? You're going to go Dwarves, Chorves, Corn. You're going to go Nurgle. You're going to go for a bunch of teams that have already got a ton of bash. And the guard effect on fouling kind of doubles down. So a dwarf team has got guard. That means they are one of the most effective fouling teams out there because their line of blockers have just got guard. So you're just getting a +2, +3 foul every turn. And when the armor is that potent, when the armor break is that potent, it's a massive impact. So I like that. The only downside here is that your troll with guard on a snotling team or a goblin team is no longer going to give you that cheeky +1. But your snotling team, you still got swarming, and goblins, well, goblins. Interesting. We move on to goblins because I believe Games Workshop have fixed something beautiful. Goblin bombers, one of the smaller changes, but the best change here is to Goblin bombers who have gained access to passing skills on primary rather than secondary. This brings them in line with the likes of snotling fungus flingers and makes them more adept at chucking their iconic bombs. Goblin coaches rejoice. So bombs have been toned down a bit. Bombs cause fumbles and turnovers now, but at least your Goblin can get past very, very quickly. Goblin bombers are now strong snotling bombers. And that's a massive win. So absolutely love that. We've been waiting for this for 4 years. So that is magic to hear. There's some Bloodlust bit. There's some Gnomes bits. And then we'll just dive straight into the commentary document. Here we go. So we're looking for the pink bits. We're looking for magenta. That's what we'll read and talk through. If a player is bitten by a vampire as a result of a failed Bloodlust roll and becomes stunned, even if they were already stunned, do they roll over and become prone at the end of the turn in which they were stunned, or the following turn at the end of the following turn? So if you become stunned during your own turn, you don't unstun at the end of it. I think that's how we've been playing it on the streams anyway, but it's nice to have it clarified. So it was kind of like, it always felt like a bit of a get out clause, like you could just chomp on someone who's already stunned, and if you roll a stunned, it actually doesn't affect anything. Now it does. So that is a marginal nerf to vampires, but only a marginal one. And I think it makes a lot of sense. It might be a little bit more challenging to keep track of, but I mean, that's going to come up every now and again, and you've only got 11 players to keep track of, so I think it's going to be okay. Right, here we go. Can a player with movement of 2 or less, so your treeman, attempt to rush to stand up instead of attempting to roll a 4+ to stand up? No. So if you are movement 1 and movement 2 and you need to stand up, you just got to roll a 4+. If you are a tree man of the old turn forest variety with timber and you've got friends, then the dice roll gets better. So if you chuck a couple of gnomes next to your tree man, it gets up on a 2+ anyway. And then you can rush twice for the mighty speed of the trees. There we go. Okay, like that. Good clarification. Can the pro skill be used to re-roll the dice when a player attempts to stand up? No. Okay, so that is a good clarification. It makes sense in that if the player is prone, they don't have a tackle zone, therefore they can't use their skill. So that it's a good clarification, because I think that's going to come up, especially when you put pro on your treeman once they've saved up 12 SPP to achieve that. That'll be a good clarification for tournaments. We're going to see a ton of gnomes, and pro is generally speaking a pretty good skill to put on a big guy. If you've got block is obviously amazing. Pro is pretty good too, especially with a tree that you're going to be doing stuff like moving and throwing players. Having that pro reroll baked in is actually quite useful. Here we go. If a player uses the ball and chain move action and moves out of the tackle zone of a player with a tentacles skill, does player with tentacles get used this skill? Okay, so your goblin ball and chain, does it get tentacled? No. Okay, that fine. Yeah, that makes sense. How would we play that before? I don't know. It's not the kind of thing that comes up a huge amount, but it's good to have it there. Ball and chains, yeah, that's fine. It just makes sense. Ball and chain is just doing random ball and chains things, right? If a player with the Fumblerooski skill begins their activation without the ball, then picks it up during their activation, can they still use the Fumblerooski skill during their activation? Yes. So the Fumblerooski is a skill that I believe, God, you know, I've never used it and I've never seen it used, but at some point in your movement, maybe at the end of your movement, don't know, at some point during your movement or at the end of your movement, you can put the ball on the ground and then you don't suffer a turnover. So the idea is this guy picks it up, runs over here, puts it on the ground, and someone else picks that up, and you kind of get a daisy chain of pickups rather than like a handoff. So it's useful in theory for like an ultimate stretch play, where you need to kind of hand off twice instead of passing. It's a weird one. That makes sense to me, that the player can run over, pick up the ball over here, drop it off. Yeah, that's fine. That's a good clarification. That makes a lot of sense. Oh, I am loving the fact that we are smashing through these pages and there's not a huge amount of pink. That is magic to me. That is a really good sign. Either that they've missed putting the pink in, or there's just not a huge amount. Right, here we go. Oh, okay. It's Bloodlust time. So this is the Spike issue 16 updates, which was the vampire one. If a player with the Bloodlust trait begins the activation prone, do they still need to run for Bloodlust? Yes. That's the difference, right, between traits and skills. Like, traits trigger regardless of what state your player is in, basically, and skills trigger only if you're standing and ready to go. I think that's about right. Well, that's quite a... Okay, if that's right, that's a good delineation. If a player with the Bloodlust trait fails the roll for Bloodlust, can they continue to move after biting a thrall in order to score, make a pass action, or reposition? No. After a model has bitten the thrall, they may move no further unless they have a rule that specifically states otherwise, such as running pass. So the way Bloodlust works is you Bloodlust, you fail Bloodlust, you can make a block or a move, and then at the end of your move or block action, you need to chomp on a dude. If you're handing off, if you're throwing the ball, or if you're using Fumblerooski, potentially, you need to bite, then do that bit. If you've got running pass, this means your vampire can run over, bite a dude, run, then pass, then move some more. So I think a pretty minor interaction unless you're taking random throwing skills on a vampire thrower, which you know, fine, absolutely fine. Again, good clarification, not a massive change. What happens when a player with Bloodlust targets a player with a foul appearance skill and fails both Bloodlust and foul appearance? This is a very good one to have clarified because that could be a disaster of a situation. Let's find out how that works. The player must first take the Bloodlust roll. If this is failed, then they may choose to change their declared action to a move action, in which case they will not need to roll for foul appearance. If they do not, then they will need to roll for foul appearance as normal. If this is failed, then the action is wasted and that activation will end. This will result in a turnover if they are unable to bite an adjacent thrall teammate. So the reason for this is if you fail Bloodlust and don't eat somebody, you drop the ball and lose all focus. You lose your tackle zones, that's it. And it's also a turnover. If you declare a block or a blitz action on a foul appearance player and you fail foul appearance, that's it, your activation ends. So you don't get that opportunity to bite a dude afterwards. Interesting, really good clarification. Again, is definitely going to come up at some point and you're going to go, how does this work? And that makes a lot of sense. Right, we've got the shiny new toys here. We've got the gnomes, so I figured there'd be a couple. Let's see if we answer all of our questions. When a player uses the trickster trait, does the player being removed from the pitch and then placed again count as the player moving? No, it is a placement, not a movement. As such, any rules that interact with player movement, such as shadowing, tentacles, etc., will not come into effect. Okay, we did ask this when we were doing our streams with gnomes. So trickster, at the point of doing the block calculation, if your trickster is being blocked, you may just pop him the other side of the attacking player. You may put him anywhere in the tackle zone of the attacking player, your blocking player. So if they're punching you, you can bounce to the other side of them. That's normally what happens. The idea is that you do that to get yourself extra supports or something to just try not to die. As a gnome, that's a very solid tactic and quite a goal of gnomes, really, to not die. So this makes a lot of sense. So this means that you can bamf out of shadowing and tentacle range like that. If the player uses Trickster and places themselves in a square containing the ball, do they attempt to pick it up? No, it's a placement, not a movement. As such, the ball will immediately bounce in the same manner as if the player had been pushed back. Yeah, so exactly the same as sidestep, it just works earlier on. So if you bamf to the ball, you roulette the ball, then the block happens, then you get pushed to the ground and die, but at least you've rouletted the ball once. So that's really, really useful to know, and it makes a lot of sense. That is how we've ruled it as well. Okay, let's keep on going. We've got guard. When a player performs a block action, This player can offer both offensive and defensive assists regardless of how many opposition players are marking them. It doesn't work for fouling. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Inducements, Halfling Master Chef. Yeah, it only works for halfling teams. We knew that was coming. Anybody who's been playing that rule differently for gnomes is just stretching. Like, although Blood Bowl is the game for that, right? If you're going to try and cheat or just, you know, do things that are a bit squiffy, this is the right place. Here we go. Page 114, Bomber. Primary and secondary. Add passing skills to primary. Remove passing skills from secondary. I love that. Underworld Denizens. Remove the swarming trait from Snotlings. We like that as well. No changes here to anything. No changes there. Tier list. Gnomes are tier 3. We knew that. I think it says it in the Spike magazine. And we've got a brand new megastar. We've got Cindy Piewhistle, the 50k halfling bomber that can play for basically every team that Bomber Dribblesnot can't play for. And also ogres, who they just get double bomber. They are now megastars. Now, in most tournament formats, you will see a megastar or you will see a tax. Cindy, Bomber, Deeproot, Griff, Hackflem, Creek and Morg are all very, very powerful style players. So you will see them cost you an extra couple of skills, or you may just not be able to take them in your tier 1 team, which I think is how we are doing our team tournament. I think literally you cannot take megastars with a tier 1 or maybe even tier 2 team. It is very, very common now because people are just a bit bored of running into Bomber every time, running into Cindy every time. And well, we've talked about this a lot, right? I love the idea that people can buy the model and use the model that they want to use. But you kind of have to do some stuff for the health of the format. So if you want to run one of these megastars, you may just have to choose a different team to run them with. And I think that's appropriate for the most part. I don't know, maybe we should have allowed megastars for tier 1 and tier 2, but just absolutely rinsed your skills. Yeah, I think, you know, Griff with a tier 1 team. Are there tier 1 teams? And Dwarves with no skills is still it's still filthy. I don't know. It's a good one. Cindy going on the list, it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's actually pretty timely, and I like that. And I believe that is everything for the FAQ. So in reverse order, let's see if there's wins. Cindy going on the megastar list, absolute win. My money is on Stab ending up on this list at the end of the year as well in November. Tier 3 for gnomes, yeah, definitely they're good, but they're not as good, and I think that's absolutely fine. So we like that as well. What was the next change? Snotlings losing swarming on Underworld. Look, Underworld are great. You play an Underworld to have a mixture of brilliant two-headed mutated goblins with a great rat ogre and some wonderful Skaven with great mutation access. The Snotlings are useful. They're useful to pad the bench. They're useful to double drop onto the pitch to raise your... They're useful, but they are not entirely central to the team. So I think toning them down like this is perfectly fine, and hopefully will just make playing against Underworld a little less egregious, because you will never have to play against the double drop Snotling. You never have to play against the 12 drop. So that's really, really useful. Bombers getting passing on primary is fantastic news. I love it. That's just brilliant. That's just brilliant. That's what people have been asking for since the game came out. And from just between you and me, I think it was a typo. Straight up, the only thing I can assume is that when the game was made, either the person who wrote the book originally, which wasn't Jay, hated goblins, or just straight up typo. I think they did the Snotling bombers and then they just thought, oh no, we should probably give them passing so they can throw bombs better, and everyone, a good idea, let's go do goblins later. Oh, it's lunchtime, and then the book was published. So I think that's probably where that came from. Halfling Master Chef, we knew about that. Guard. Okay, fouling. Right, fouling is important, but it needs to be risky. Dirty Player is a good way to introduce a bonus to fouling. It's a skill you choose to foul. Guard is a skill you choose to block. So having Guard just be Dirty Player +1 to everybody around you It's too much. It is going to hurt stunty teams ever so slightly, but I don't think it's all that egregious. And I think it's just going to be better for all the stunty. There's 5 teams now. There's 30 teams in Blood Bowl, so 25 other teams have got a little bit nerfed because their guard isn't just a double tick box, okay? So love that, actually. I've changed my mind. That is a very solid change. The downside is that every video I've made that includes guard talks about it being in fouling, so I'm going to have to redo the Goblin video, I think. Definitely, because we've got goblins with passing. Might have to redo some Underworld. Nah, I'm not going to bother. You Underworld people are too good anyway. It's a good one. It's a good one. I like that. Gnomes makes a lot of sense the way Trickster moves, kind of like Sidestep. Bloodlust, that makes a lot of sense. Some good clarifications there. We like that too. And I think everything else is just a very good clarification. Bit of Ball and Chain, bit of Fumblerooski, very edge case. Pro movement 2. Yeah, some people have been playing Treeman and asking some questions there, I guess, at the back of having the Gnome team. The double stun from Vampires is the last piece of the puzzle here. So let me know what you think of the FAQ. Let me know if you think they've missed anything, because I think this is perfect, short of them upping and downing the points costs of stuff like they do in 40k. I don't think they can tweak anything any more than they have done this. I know everybody wants wildly accurate gone, but I don't think that's going to happen until, I don't know, at some point we get another season. I hope it goes at that point. Otherwise, I think this is wicked. I think it tones down Underworld a bit. It clears the rules up a bit. Goblin's got a little bit better. Yeah, this is wicked. Good job. I'm really pleased with this, but I'm sure there's something out there that's one of you is going to go, yeah, Ben, but what about this? So let us know in the comments and we can have a good chat about it, because I think overall this is really good. And the question is, which of this do we go, yes, this needs to happen by a team tournament in exactly 1 month? Let's find out. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. I promise you we will. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.